A new movie full of noise. The Adventures of
Hello, welcome to Cine Critique, where we get real with cult films. I'm your host Thomas, and I'm here with my brother and co-host, my bro-host, Brian. Hello, this week we're on an adventure, as this week's films are 1984's The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension, 1988's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and 1990's The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Okay, so first up, as you said, 1984's The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension.
Buckaroo, President's on line 1, calling about is everything okay with the alien spacecraft from Planet 10, or should he just go ahead and destroy Russia?
Tell him yes on 1 and no on 2.
Directed by W.D. Richter, written by Earl MacRausch, I think I'm saying his surname right, and it stars Peter Weller as Buckaroo Banzai, John Lithgow as Dr. Emilio Lizardo, Ellen Barkin as Penny Priddy, Jeff Goldblum as New Jersey, Christopher Lloyd as John Big Bootay, Clancy Brown as Rawhide, Ronald Lacey as President Widmerk, Vincent Schiavelli as John O'Connor, Carl Lumley as John Parker, and Dan Hedaya as John Gomez. The budget of this film was $17 million at the time and grossed $6,254,148. Anything else you want to say about this before I make my comments?
Synopsis.
Yes. Synopsis, as IMDb has it, is adventurer, brain surgeon, rock musician, Buckaroo Banzai and his crime-fighting team, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, must stop evil alien invaders from the 8th dimension who are planning to conquer Earth. So it's nothing absurd there.
No, it's one hell of a plot. I'm right, his full thing is the polymath Dr. Buckaroo Banzai, physicist, neurosurgeon, test pilot, and rock star.
Right.
And that's not too many qualifications, I'm sure.
No, but any pulp comic book readers and fans or just comic book enthusiasts would probably get the gist that he's very similar to Doc Savage from the 30s and 40s magazines, as he was a surgeon, musician, and an adventurer with a close circle of friends as well.
Right.
And I never got the creator of Doc Savage. I think Alan Moore had a famous run in the 70s or 80s or so after that at some point. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
He did Tom Strong anyway, which was heavily inspired as well by Doc Savage.
Yeah.
And I forgot who it was, but years ago there was a director attached to be doing an adaptation of Doc Savage. Anyway, opening thoughts?
It's a crazy ride.
It is.
It's got everything you want in a film.
Almost.
What's missing?
I don't know.
All right.
It's a great cast for anyone that'll know those names. Like John Lithgow, people know him from Third Rock from the Sun. Is it Cliffhanger he's in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dexter season 4.
Yeah, he plays the Trinity Killer. And I think he was Churchill in, is it The Crown, the Netflix series about the royal family?
Wouldn't surprise me. I don't really know.
But obviously we've got Christopher Lloyd in here as Big Bootay.
Yeah.
There was Doc Brown, obviously in Back to the Future,
Yeah.
Cuckoo's Nest and stuff. Got Clancy Brown in here as Rawhide, who's also been in the latest season of Dexter, the New Blood season.
Yeah, he was in the latest John Wick.
Yeah, and Highlander.
Yeah.
He's the original bad guy for the first Highlander film.
Yep.
And famously voices Lex Luthor in the DC animated universe of the 90s to the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone knows Jeff Goldblum, don't they?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they do.
He's just the fly to the...
Yeah, Grendelfly.
Yeah.
Carl Lumley's done quite a few things, and I can't think of anything now off the top of my head.
He was in Alias.
I was going to say, was he in Alias?
And he voiced Marshall Manhunter in Justice League.
Yeah.
And he was Marshall Manhunter's father in Supergirl.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Roland Lacey, the president in this, is the famous space melting character from
So,
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
You wanted me to get that wrong.
Yeah.
Ellen Barkin crops up in a few things, but she's in one of our favourite films, The Big Easy,
Yeah.
which I think was a mid-90s film?
Late 80s.
Late 80s.
Yeah.
The series was mid-90s.
Yeah.
The series adaptation.
Yeah.
But this is a film Well, you can probably gather from the synopsis.
Made for you.
No.
Oh.
Well, a little bit. It doesn't take itself too serious. There's clearly comedy elements here and so on. And it was advertised at the end of the credits to be having a sequel,
Yeah.
which never came. And the sequel would have been Buckaroo Banzai versus the World Crime League.
Yeah.
But the film just failed at the box office. But it was released at a similar time, and I can't remember, and I don't have a note now, to quite a big hit in the cinemas, which clearly outshone it.
Yeah.
But the villain and the leader of the World Crime League, he was apparently set up in numerous lines throughout the film, but those scenes got deleted.
Yeah.
And he was called, I think, if I'm saying it right, Hanoi Zan.
Yeah. Something like that.
But all those lines that reference him were deleted. Apparently, they can be found on the DVD release.
Yeah. They did a novelisation.
I was going to say,
2018, I think that was released.
I thought 2018 was when they published all the Ford Fairlane short stories in a novel.
Could be the
But
same.
it could be the same year.
I read it like moments ago and I
Right.
wrote it down. There's been numerous comic books written by the same creator, I think.
Yeah, I think they did a comic book not long after we first watched this.
Yeah.
Oh, that could have been the news about the sequel novel.
Yeah.
I'm going to be tracking them down shortly anyway.
Yeah, there were numerous comic books, I think, from the 90s to now.
Yeah.
Not many, but like little mini-series on it.
Yeah.
There were pictures for a TV series
Right, that
development, because there was one in the 90s that fell through. And then I think 2016, Kevin Smith was attached to one.
Right.
He was going to be on Amazon,
Okay.
but he dropped out of it due to licensing issues or
Right.
something.
He takes on a lot of projects, Kevin Smith, that never seem to come into fruition.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I'd like to mention that I said the writer was Earl Mac Rausch.
Right.
He'd only wrote 4 other films. 3 of them I didn't recognise, but one is worth mentioning because it's a Martin Scorsese movie, which was New York, New York.
Yep.
So that had to be said. And I don't know if you've got it on here, but I mentioned about the end credits with the versus the World Crime League being mentioned. But the opening titles to this, it's filmed with them like walking away in a rhythm.
Yeah.
And Michael Boddicker,
Yeah.
who was doing the music on this, he hadn't finished that yet. So he told them to use Billy Joel's Uptown Girl because it was the same tempo.
Yeah.
As a Billy Joel fan, I had to share that piece of trivia. But I also mentioned the pretty stellar cast here as well. I forgot to mention Peter Weller famously played RoboCop.
Yeah.
Just assuming people would know that, so it's easily overlooked.
He voiced Batman.
He did in a 2-part adaptation of Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah. I just thought you'd want to mention that.
But any Breaking Bad fans would have recognised Jonathan Banks. A small part in this, he plays a guard or warden to John Lithgow's character.
Yeah.
Early on in the film. He done.
Yeah.
It's not a big scene, but he's there way before he was Mike.
I always want to call him Mike.
Yeah. Again, the director, though, W.D. Richter, he's only directed one other film, and that was in 91, called Late for Dinner.
Yeah.
He's known as a writer, really. He wrote the 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
He did a 79 adaptation of Dracula.
Yep.
He did the 73 movie Slither, which is Caan.
Yeah.
James Caan.
James Caan.
And 2005 Stealth.
Yeah. He also did Big Trouble in Little China, apparently.
It comes up for him. It says adapted from screenplay.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis, talked about deleted scenes, has a lot of scenes deleted. She was his mother in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis, as people know, as Laurie Strode from Halloween.
Yeah.
Apparently there is an image of her still makes it into the film. I think it's on one of the car's dashboard. I'm assuming it's the rocket car at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is quite an interesting scene because a lot of the dialogue during that jet car scene at the beginning, it's dialogue ripped from, well, I say ripped, they're not actually using that audio recording. They've got the actors using lines for it, but it's from a shuttle launch.
Right.
I couldn't find which shuttle launch. I could have, maybe if I'd have bothered to look further, but I found that quite interesting.
You mentioned Michael Boddicker on the music.
Yes.
Didn't really do many
Scores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did work in the music department for The Fly,
Oh, I didn't see that one.
the Incredible Hulk animated series from the 90s,
Right, I didn't get that one either.
and Dune Part 1.
Yeah, I got that. And I got Flashdance, and I got one of my favourite Sean Connery movies, Outland.
Yeah.
Which I think Outland's supposed to be like a sci-fi reimagining of...
I'm not sure. I'm not really good with westerns.
No, they're not my forte either. But again, the humour in this and the plot line in the fact that it's aliens invading, I made a note, precursor to Men in Black, ? And I mean the Men in Black film, not the comics.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you mean like the ludicrous, outlandish, just sort of
Yeah.
alien invasion
Yeah.
that they've got set up.
But
in
just
there.
how the humour works around the aliens as well seemed a little Men in Black-like to me. It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me if the writers of Men in Black had seen this film. I think this is also maybe one of the more niche films we've covered so far.
I think all these.
I was going to say maybe all three.
Because they're all adventures of, and
Yeah.
these were like the last adventures of any of them in film.
Yeah, and first.
No, not first for Munchausen.
Oh, had he been in a film before?
Yeah, I think he'd had 3, but I'll get onto that later.
Okay. But yeah, I really like the humour in this. John Lithgow particularly. Apparently, it made Peter Weller break character a few times, having to laugh in a scene towards the end when he first heard and shared scenes with Lithgow doing this, because Lithgow was supposed to be an alien.
Yeah.
And he's doing this, I think Weller referred to it as Italian Martian.
Yeah.
And it's because Lithgow wanted to sound strange. So he used a tailor that was on the 20th Century Fox lot called Roberto Torminelli.
Yeah.
Who had this thick Italian accent, or some sort of Italian accent anyway, and Lithgow had him record his lines, and he practiced from the lines recorded, trying to copy the accent, and because of that, Lithgow actually managed to get Roberto Terminelli credited as the dialect coach for him on the film, which is quite funny, because it's such a bizarre accent.
I think it's good.
Yeah, it's nice that he's done that, because a lot of people that have worked with Lithgow, they always say how nice he is to work with and friendly and stuff.
Yeah.
And when you see him do comedy, it's obvious, but if you were to see him in something like Dexter, he's very believable at them roles as well.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal actor.
Definitely, and it feels like people have only really just started to see just how good he is after his Trinity Killer performance.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. His character as well, he also gets like famous quotes mixed up.
All right.
I made a note of the first one he's got, and it's, "Home is where you wear your hat."
Yeah.
Because he's mixed it up with "Home is where you hang your hat," I think the line is.
Yeah.
And the proper quote, and he's mixed it up with something else. And I can't remember what, but I can't remember how it's described in what it is he's doing. But many of his lines are like these misunderstandings and crossed phrases, which I think works really well.
Yeah.
It is such a bizarre film. The only other comment I have to make is the cinematographer was originally Jordan Cronenworth. I think I'm saying that right, or I've noted it right. He was the cinematographer on Blade Runner.
Right.
And I don't know why, but one of the producers insisted they change, and they got Fred J. Coenekamp, if I've got that name right. He'd done Tower and Inferno, and I never made know much more of what he'd done, but that was like his big one anyway, from memory. It was the one that stood out to me.
Yeah.
It was to do with the use of colour, because apparently Jordan Cronenworth would have made the colours pop a little more,
Yeah.
and they wanted something a little more flat and emphasise the campiness of it, almost 60s Batman in a way, without the sets are done.
Yeah.
And I think Jordan Cronenworth would have made them sets feel bolder and more three-dimensional in a way, with the use of colour.
Yeah.
And I'm a little disappointed, because I think that is something that would have maybe given this film a touch and flair.
Definitely.
I do wish I could remember what was open at the box office when this came out, because that's certainly one of the reasons why this failed, for sure. But it's kind of ahead of its time as well, in a way.
Was it Terminator? Same year.
Yes, same year as Terminator, which is weird, because one of the characters is John O'Connor.
Yeah.
And the company that they're going up against is Yo-Yo-Dine, which comes from a novel, which was a play on, I can't remember the company, Summit Dine, and it was a company set up after the war to reverse engineer the German rockets.
Yeah.
But obviously in Terminator, you've got Cyberdyne, and I'm assuming that's playing on the whole reverse engineering of the rocket's name as well.
Yeah.
And they've got John Connor in Terminator, so it makes me wonder where this idea of Dine and John Connor's come from in these two films. It's very parallel thinking that's a little eerie in a way, especially that the world is in threat from this unknown entity from another place, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's quite bizarre. And is there anything else you want to say about this, or do we move on to our second adventure?
I think you mentioned it. Was it a watermelon or something on set?
Oh, God, yeah.
They say something like, we'll come back to this later, and then it's never referenced.
No, apparently it was to see if the producers were checking the dailies.
Yeah, I know. I thought I was about to bring up. Sorry for saying it's not referenced because they wanted to know if the producers were checking the dailies or not. And I left it in, and they got no notes back about it or anything. And they just assumed they're not even watching the dailies and they could just do what they want. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I think it's to make sure they could just do the creative output that they wanted without having any odd feedback coming to them.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Second adventure?
Yep, second adventure.
Okay.
The Adventures of Baron Munchausen from 1988.
I'm Baron Munchausen. That sounds nasty. Is it contagious?
And its budget was $46,630,000, and it grossed worldwide $8,083,123, which that's a big loss.
They're substantial. It's less than a fifth of its money back.
It's directed by, and he was a co-writer as well, Terry Gilliam, and the other writer is Charles McEwan, based on the novel by Gottfried August Berger,
then Rudolf Erich Raspe. or Raspier.
Yeah, they're both uncredited on this film, apparently. And it stars John Neville as Baron Munchausen, Sarah Polley as Sally Salt, Eric Idle as Berthold, Winston Dennis as Albrecht, Jack Purvis as Gustavus, and Charles McEwen plays Adolphus, Oliver Reed as Vulcan, Uma Thurman as Venus, and Robin Williams as King of the Moon, but he's uncredited. Oh, and Valentina Cortez is Queen Ariadne. And the synopsis of IMDb is the account of Baron Munchausen's supposed travels and fantastical experiences across late 18th century Europe with his band of misfits. So yeah, it's another
adventure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a guy and his band of oddballs.
Yeah, I don't know if people will know, but Sarah Polley, who you said plays Sally Salt, is the main female protagonist in Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder remake from writer James Gunn.
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam and Eric Idle, obviously, is Monty Python.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason John Neville apparently took this role. He was a theatre actor and weren't a film actor.
Yeah.
And he accepted because he was a fan of Monty Python. Yeah. This film is also part of an unofficial trilogy.
Yeah.
Which is also Gilliam's Time Bandits from 1981 and Brazil of 1985.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Time Bandits, but I'm a big fan of Brazil.
Big fan.
Well, I like it a lot anyway. I need to watch it some more.
Yeah.
And similar to Monty Python, though, this is, I think, a bigger draw for people that understand and appreciate history and enjoy history. Yeah. Because there's clearly some gags in here that I think only somebody that understands history is going to really enjoy.
Yeah.
I wrote it's an historical epic meets Looney Tunes to a point.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. But I've also wrote it's got some Alice in Wonderland and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory vibes.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd mentioned how there were previous film adaptations of this.
Right, okay.
There was, I think it was the Russian one in 1979.
Oh, I wonder if it's as wild as the Lord of the Rings.
And then I think there was a German one in 1961.
Right, okay.
And then a couple older ones, I can't remember the dates of them. I haven't got them noted down.
Yeah.
So I might be wrong on which country did which.
Right. For me, a lot of the parts that I really enjoyed was performances and actors.
Yeah.
The plot didn't seem to really come together.
No.
I felt like it was just almost like little vignettes. What's the word I'm after?
Vignettes.
Vignettes. Thinking food again. The vignettes almost like Munchausen's here, then he's here, then he's here. And for me, an adventure should be part of that journey, not the just here, if that makes sense.
Well, that's where I think it comes in as the adventures of, because it's a load of little adventures.
Possibly.
And I think this is the only one where it actually does a load
Several adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
The other two were more like one adventure.
Yeah. You mentioned Robin Williams being uncredited. I don't know if you've got why.
Or something to do with him just coming in last minute. Or something.
He was a last minute casting, and by the time they'd cast him, the film was already bludgeoning money. They were $2 million down before filming started. So the budget was always going up. I can't remember why, but some part of that was to do with an outbreak in Spain where they were filming. Could be wrong on that.
I'm not sure.
But Jonathan Pryce was in there.
I was just about to say, I missed off Jonathan Pryce.
Well, he weren't a big role, I'll be honest.
No, but he was great when he was in it.
Yeah. You said Uma Thurman was Venus. This was actually her first casting role.
Yeah.
But it was not her feature debut because of the production issues this film had.
Yeah.
It's quite common, apparently, for Terry Gilliam films to have this sort of problematic start in the production phase.
Yeah.
Although I think this is where it started on this one.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder. I think this is also 20th Century Fox. Not 100% on that one. I should have noted that as well.
I think it was, and it changed hands or something.
Right.
I can't remember now. If I'm right, there's something about it changing. No, that was it. Someone got fired, and apparently it was like an oral deal of what the budget was going to be.
Right.
And once that person was fired, that deal obviously doesn't exist because it's what's on paper.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter what they were saying had happened. They were just on what's on paper.
Right.
So, but even then, I think it was only 35 million. It was supposed to be 20 something on budget.
Yeah. The fact that this is over $46.5 million is quite mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It sounds like due to some filming issues, they couldn't start right away.
Yeah.
So obviously they're having to hold things and hold people's contracts longer than needed. So I'm guessing that's where a lot of that money went.
Yeah.
There's a really good scene there where they had run out of money and they couldn't afford to build the sets. So they just used like paper cutouts. And I can't remember what scene it's for now.
Yeah.
But it's done really effectively. I think it's where we first meet Robin Williams' character. where he's just the large head.
Yeah.
And there's some like houses and buildings around.
Yeah.
I think it's that. No, I think it's like a forced perspective thing. I also quite like when Uma Thurman gets introduced later, because we see her early on, I think, as Rose.
Yeah.
And then she's Venus.
Yeah.
When she gets introduced as Venus, they're replicating the Birth of Venus painting, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that I think history fans are more likely to notice.
Yeah.
And I imagine there's more stuff in here like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice a lot.
No.
No.
Didn't notice much.
No. I'm not a massive history person.
No. I'm not that much of a fan of Terry Gilliam, to be fair.
No. I'm not sure I am.
I like Brazil. I like 12 Monkeys.
Yeah. I do want to watch Time Bandits, though.
Yeah. A lot of other stuff I've seen, well, a couple of other stuff I've seen, I haven't really been.
But I've not seen much of the Monty Python stuff either.
No.
Well, it would make sense for him to go into something like this from Monty Python, but playing on history in a comedic way and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this was a flop, though.
Yeah.
Coming off the back end of doing Monty Pythons, you would assume acclaim for it.
He'd done Brazil 3 years before.
Yeah, and Brazil, I think, was quite a hit, wasn't it? Or was that a loss?
Honestly, don't know.
No,
I should have looked that up.
Yeah, I wish I had.
I know it's like recognised as a good film, Brazil, in comparison to some that gets brought up more than some of his other works.
This gets recommended on IMDb, though, when you're on the page for Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
This is the first one that it lists, or it is on my tabs anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's anything to do with cookies.
Maybe it just expects you to want to see more adventures of other people.
Maybe, but Ford Fairlane don't bring either of these up, and neither of these bring Ford Fairlane up.
No, but Ford Fairlane's a different breed. That's all I want to say.
Well, my problem with this is it's kooky, but it's not funny.
No.
I don't know, because I like Looney Tunes, and I wrote it's an historical epic meets Looney Tunes, but I don't think they actually get the humour or the wit quite right for this, for me anyway.
Yeah.
I can imagine some people really enjoying themselves with this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some big names in this, like Oliver Reed's quite a giant, really. Oh, and Sting's got a little cameo in here.
Yeah.
Sadly, he's not wearing his little trunks with wings from Dune. That would have been a nice little touch. In fact, his cameo only came about because he was Gilliam's neighbour at the time.
Right.
Which is a fun little factoid for this. It's also quite a while since we watched this one, so my memory's not too clear now.
Yeah. If you don't enjoy it that much, you're bound to forget quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, this is no by means a bad movie. I was quite looking forward to watching this, and I don't think it's lived up to my expectations.
No, I don't think.
But I think anybody that likes the Monty Python films, I think could actually get something from this.
Most likely. I assume there's some humour overlap there as well.
Well, with the historical stuff and it still being Gilliam and Eric Idle being there, there's got to be some sort of DNA transference into it, hasn't there?
Yeah.
But I think this is the weakest of the three we're discussing today.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to disagree with that.
And it's mostly for the fact it's just not as funny, because it's clearly well made.
I hope it would be with such a budget.
And the cast it's got are phenomenal.
Yeah.
For me, the plot just felt a little all over the place.
Yeah, but like I say, I think it's supposed to, because he's supposed to be retelling these fantastical adventures to a child.
Yeah. The fact it's these little short scenarios. The Robin Williams one on its own is probably my favourite. That's like a great piece, but I am a big Robin Williams fan anyway.
I enjoyed seeing Robin Williams choose scenery.
Yeah.
Scenery it was to choose.
Literally.
Yes.
But for me, it was just a little too cut up.
I didn't really enjoy the characters that much either, to be fair.
No, but again, I think that's a problem from it not being as funny as I wanted it to be.
Maybe.
I don't feel I'm getting enough gags a minute.
No.
If you're a comedy, you expect jokes X amount of times. But like I said, I don't know how much of this, how many of the jokes rely on historical knowledge.
Yeah.
I noticed, I can't remember what they were now, but there was some flyers up near the beginning and there was a couple of jokes on them. So there's also potentially more jokes in the background as well.
Yeah.
And I know due to production issues, they couldn't get everything they wanted.
No.
Which also makes you wonder how it's come together from its original vision.
Yeah.
Because they needed more horses, apparently, but due to this thing in Spain, they couldn't get all the horses they wanted.
Right. Is that why there's only one horse?
Yeah.
I only remember one horse. Can't remember what he called it.
I'm not sure either. But that was a reference to something.
Yeah, most likely.
Are we moving on to the third adventure?
I want to mention music by Michael Kamen.
Well done.
I've always got to mention how he does great work.
You haven't always got to mention.
Well, no, because I think the only other movie we've done by him where he's done music is Frequency, which he did a great job on that.
Right.
And I mentioned before how he's done Die Hard, Lethal Weapon,
Yeah.
X-Men.
I get it, you like Michael Kamen.
He's a good composer. Oh, and Sarah Polley said while she was working on this, it was a very traumatic experience.
Really?
Yeah, obviously she was a child and there's explosions going off right next to her. She was thrown in cold water. It was long hours for filming. Right. She said it was very awful to work on.
Yeah.
She said she don't mind people enjoying the movie though.
Right.
I know quite a few people really didn't enjoy working on it.
Yeah.
due to all the production issues.
Rightly so.
Yeah, welcome to move on now.
Okay, so 1990s, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane.
Hey, it's Ford Fairlane! Money! Hey, what are your names? Neil and Bob? Is that like what you do, huh?
On a budget of 20 million, estimated, I'm assuming, with it being such a fine number, it grossed worldwide $21,413,502. Directed by Rennie Harlin, written by Daniel Waters, James Capp, David Arnett, and based on the characters created by Rex Weiner. Stars Andrew Dice Clay as Ford Fairlane, Wayne Newton as Julian Grendel, Priscilla Presley as Colleen Sutton, Morris Day as Don Cleveland, Lauren Holly as Jazz, Maddie Corman as Zuzu Petals, Gilbert Gottfried as Johnny Crunch, David Patrick Kelly as Sam, Brandon Cole as the Kid, Robert Englund as Smiley, Ed O'Neill as Lieutenant Amos, and Vince Neil as Bobby Black. The synopsis, as IMDb gives it, is a vulgar private detective is hired to find a missing groupie and is drawn into a mystery involving a series of murders tied to the music industry. I'll let you start the discussion on this third and final adventure for this week.
This one's my favourite of the lot.
Yeah, I think it's mine.
I think Ford Fairlane as a character is just fantastic. He's so funny.
Yeah.
He's so great to just watch.
Yeah, he is.
And I know a lot of that comes from Andrew Dice Clay's stand-up routines. Well, some of it does.
Yeah.
I can't think what lines he brought in from his stand-up. They did let him improvise.
There's only 2 or 3 lines, I think, from his stand-up.
Yeah, but he's still funny.
Yeah. As a rock and roll detective.
Yeah.
This is Priscilla Presley's only other film, apparently, outside of the Naked Gun trilogy.
Well, what a great film to be in.
Yeah. I just thought it was quite funny how she'd done these police parody series, I guess, with Naked Gun, and then did a rock and roll detective movie when her late husband was such a big rock and roll star.
Yeah.
I think that shows, I don't know, some sort of bravery to do that, maybe.
Yeah.
I particularly like Lauren Holly being in this as Jazz because I think she's great in Dumb and Dumber, which is an all-time comedy hit.
Yeah.
And I think this is for me after discovering it as well.
Yeah.
A few little facts about characters that I've got is Johnny Crunch, played by Gilbert Godfrey. Dice Clay wanted Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And Howard Stern saw a lot of him in that role, as in a lot of himself in that role.
Yeah.
And Dice Clay forced him to audition and he didn't get it. And Howard Stern's kind of pleased because he just didn't want to be playing himself,
Yeah.
which he thought he would have been doing this role. And Billy Idol was apparently cast as Smiley,
Yeah.
but had to drop out due to a bike accident, which is a shame. I think that'd have been a cool little role for him. And don't know if anybody will know, but I said Vince Neil is Bobby Black. Vince Neil is from Motley Crue.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who now. They were playing in the band that he's in this film.
Yeah, he was the drummer.
And he became the drummer to Motley Crue, I think, in the late 90s.
Yeah. If I'm right, that whole band, in a way, is kind of a super group.
Yeah?
The drummer was a drummer for Ozzy Osbourne.
Right, okay.
One of the guitarists, I think, was a guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne. And then someone else, and they were from another band, and I can't remember what band. Damn. Why didn't I write that down? But yeah, they were all from bands anyway.
And speaking of bands, we see a list of bands in this film. One of the names of the bands is Ellen Aim and the Attackers.
Yeah.
Which links to Streets of Fire that we've discussed in an early episode, as that was the name of Diane Lane's band in that film.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool because I think similar to that film, there's something in the energy of this about this rock and roll detective story that's going, and it lines up quite well. If this was serious, I think it would line up quite well with the rock and roll fable of Streets of Fire.
Yeah.
We said Rennie Harlin was the director of this. This is the film that got him the job of Die Hard 2, which I never made a note, but it went into production not much after he finished rapping on this. And I think it released a week prior to this.
Yeah.
So that was a quick turnaround on Die Hard 2, and I think it's obvious, as it's the lesser of the first 3, and 4 and 5 don't exist.
I don't know how much work Rennie Harlin puts into directing.
But Rennie Harlin brought on the director Oliver Wood for this because he liked his tone from Miami Vice. That's what he'd worked on previous, and a couple other things that I never made note of. But Oliver Wood went on to do quite well, I would say, in Hollywood after this, because Harlin kept him on to do Die Hard 2. He did Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Face Off. He then did the Bourne trilogy, the first 3 Bourne films with Matt Damon. Equalizer 2.
The cinematographer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did the Jack Reacher sequel, Jack Reacher Never Go Back. And his last film, sadly, because he passed away, I think, last year, his last film is Morbius, which I think isn't a particularly ugly film when you see some of the unedited scenes and so on from going into post.
No, it wasn't terrible. Wasn't great.
No. Classic car fans will recognise Ford Fairlane because it is a name of a 57 Ford.
Yep.
Or at least his car that is a Ford Fairlane in the film is a 57 Fairlane. And classic car fans apparently sent letters of protest to the studio when one blows up in the film. And they said, no, it was a fiberglass replica on a new Ford chassis.
Oh, thank God.
There was also I really want to try and find this and get it for myself. DC Comics did a 4-part prequel miniseries.
Yeah.
And I said it was based on characters by Rex Weiner.
Yeah.
However it's pronounced.
Right.
It's because they were all short stories that he was telling in New York Rocker and LA Weekly
Yeah.
way back in the 70s, I think. I never made a note of the year.
So.
And they've all been compiled into a novelization released in 2018.
Right, yeah. He also wrote an episode of Miami Vice in season 1.
Oh, sweet. I love early Miami Vice.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't have anything on the other screenplay writers other than Daniel Water.
I'm going to say you have no Daniel Waters.
He does a lot of cult films like Heathers, Demolition Man, Hudson Hawk, and one of my favourites, Batman Returns.
Oh, is that one of your favourites?
I mean, out of what he works on, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do like Batman Returns. It's one of my favourites.
The other writers, David Arnott, he did Last Action Hero.
Right, okay.
James Capp, he did some TV series that I made note of, which were Freddy's Nightmares and Mortal Kombat Conquest.
Oh, I like Conquest.
Yeah.
Or is that the animated one?
No,
I'm not
Conquest was live action.
Live action one. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't recognise any films that they'd worked on any. I just thought those were worth mentioning because they're more cult fan bases, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think this is as absurd as the others.
Oddly not, no.
Yet there's an amazing scene where you learn that Ford Fairlane has a pet koala bear.
Yes, he does.
And it's phenomenal.
I love it.
It's such a good romp, this film. I think if you enjoy detective stories in general, especially them like Hollywood noir sort of ones,
yeah,
I think there'll be something to be enjoyed here.
Definitely.
Especially for rock and roll fans as well, I would guess, because there's a lot of music references in this.
Yeah.
And I never made it. No, I did. David Patrick Kelly's in this from Warriors.
Yeah.
And many other things.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal actor.
He is. It's always good to see him just pop up in something.
Famously played Luther in 48 Hours.
Yeah. And Luther in the Warriors.
That's what I was going to say first, and I thought, no, I'll say 48 Hours. I was going to say there's a lot of good jokes in this, and there are, but I think a lot of them come from Dice Clay's cadence, how he chooses to talk in this.
Yeah.
I could try and do an impression, but it just wouldn't be worth it, so I'll let you put a clip in somewhere of just how good it is with his little, hey, sort of noises that he says at the end of sentences and stuff.
Hey, you're that guy, the private eye.
You're a poet and didn't know it. Oh!
It's such a great film. He was nearly taken from this film because one of the producers, I think it was Joel Silver, 2 weeks or so before filming, was like, no, he's too fat.
Yeah.
Which either lost a lot of weight before filming, or Joel Silver doesn't understand what fat people are. Maybe his name is not Joel Silver, maybe it's Joel Slither, because he's a slither of a man.
I wouldn't say that. He's a big producer, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he does a lot. There's very rare an old film come up that I'm like, I bloody love this film, and his name's not attached to it.
Yeah. I think it was Roger Ebert that said that Andrew Dice Clay could have been a great actor from what he saw in there.
Because he didn't like anything of the movie, really, but he was like, he could be a great leading man because he's got this, like, confidence about him.
Yeah.
Which he does.
Yeah.
But I think that also comes from being a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of confidence, I think, to get up on stage and tell jokes, especially when you're doing jokes like what Dice Clay was doing at the time, because they were a bit risky and a bit pushing boundaries. That he was kind of one of the first celebrities to get cancelled.
Yeah.
There's a reference in this film that Ford Fairlane's like, oh, they don't let me on MTV anymore. So they banned me on MTV. Well, Dice Clay, not long before this, was actually banned from MTV.
Yeah.
I can't remember what for now, but definitely for one of his jokes.
Yeah. A lot of people said they blurred the line of the on-stage persona and his real life self.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
And it feels like some of his stage persona comes into the Ford Fairlane character in this film.
Yeah.
But from the stand-up I've seen of him, I've only seen one of his shows. It was on YouTube. I think it works.
Oh, yeah.
It's made me want to buy the novel anyway to read the original stories by Rex Weiner.
Yeah.
See what they're like. Because if there is, like, as fun as this, with that sort of tongue-in-cheek attitude as he goes through, then yeah, it's great. Because this is a really good pulpy comedy.
Yeah.
And there's clearly a lot of attention to detail in this, I feel, in the sets and what's there and how the characters move, and style, design, etc.
Yeah.
Because for a movie that came out in 1990, it's not particularly infused with a lot of 90s pop culture.
No, but it's 1990, so
yeah, but
it's pretty much an 80s movie.
Yeah, but I don't particularly think there's a lot of 80s infusion in there. There's a certain style to it, but the style that I feel is coming off from it comes from Streets of Fire. All the Streets of Fire 80s.
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, maybe it is an 80s movie, but it doesn't feel like your typical 80s movie.
Mark it on the cusp of entering the 90s.
Yeah, possibly.
Every decade you get to the start of the next decade and you just notice that things are changing.
Yeah.
It's not the stereotypical version of it anymore.
But of the Remy Harlan films I've seen,
Exorcist the beginning?
this is my favourite.
Right.
Then Exorcist the beginning.
Not Mindhunters.
Oh, I forgot about Mindhunters.
What about Cliffhanger?
Cliffhanger's okay.
What about
I mentioned Cliffhanger, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, John Lithgow.
Yeah.
Pretty much mentioned Die Hard 2 with Michael Caine. Rennie Harlan did the Misfits from the other year, which is a Pierce Brosnan movie.
Haven't seen that.
We have seen it.
Have I?
Yeah, it's the heist one. Pierce Brosnan comes in to help his daughter or something.
You sure I've seen it?
Yeah, we watched it the other year. It weren't as good as we thought it were going to be,
Right.
and we didn't understand why. Oh, Rennie Harlan also does 12 rounds.
Okay. Yeah, still not as good as this.
No.
But 12 Rounds might be my next favourite of his.
Yeah, he also does Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I'm
sure I've seen it.
I feel like telling me you've seen it, but I feel like you're also pulling from my memories of when I first watched it, and I weren't keen on it either. And it's a very
plain.
Yeah, because I think with this, it's Ford Fairlane and the characters and just the overall plot that really pull it through.
If anything, maybe the writing when you look at what Daniel Waters has worked on.
Oh yeah, but that's what I'd say. Because you should watch Andrew Dice Clay as Ford Fair. Well, maybe just Andrew Dice Clay, like doing that persona anyway.
Yeah, but the surrounding characters, how they interact with him, really work as well.
Yeah,
because everyone else, they're almost a pastiche of who they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
but he is a pastiche of what he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
so everyone's like just a little more heightened than reality, and he's like this big more than reality sort of thing colliding with them, and it just allows some great interaction stuff.
Yeah, he's a great character.
Yeah.
This is what I really wanted sequels to.
Well, you can read the short stories in the prequel comic.
Yeah. Buckaroo Banzai, I'd like to see more of that as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
Buckaroo Banzai is the only one that's not based on it as well.
Yes. Although it kind of is.
Kind of.
They could have really changed stuff around and just been like, you know what, we're doing a Doc Savage movie. It feels like they wanted a Doc Savage movie, and somebody was like, oh, I don't want you to have the license to Doc Savage. He's like, fine, I'll do the next best thing.
No, the creator of Buckaroo Banzai just kept writing little short story adventures but never finishing them. So he has like loads of these little adventures, and the guy working with him was just like, well, we can't do anything with it. There's an unfinished story.
Right. I don't think I've got much more to say on Ford Fairlane without trying to quote it and butchering the dialogue. But Ford Fairlane is my favourite.
Yeah, mine as well. Stephen Percy, the vocalist from Rat, was originally going to be the Black Plague lead singer that went to Vince Neil.
I read that and never made a note of it. Well, also, do you have anything on the music on this?
Music
is credited by Yellow.
Yeah, which is...
Yellow seem to be a band?
Yeah, they are. They're a Swiss electronic pop duo.
Right. I never looked them up. I went on to IMDb and I was like, what do they do?
Yeah, they don't really do any other, like, score or anything like that films. It's just their music in general that usually features.
But it really helps work in this film, I think.
Yeah,
how it incorporates music and fits around.
They did a great job with it. Right, Billy Idol had a song on the soundtrack. I can't remember what the song is.
There were quite a few good songs on the soundtrack.
But I know that's like the biggest thing from this movie. Like,
what, his song?
Yeah, that was the thing that like won big.
Wow, really?
I think that won an award for best music in a film or something. I don't know what award it was like, but yeah.
Cradle of Love is the song. Thank you, Google.
Yeah,
from the album Charmed Life.
Yeah, that's the one. He won awards for having that song in this film.
Good for it. He won awards for having the song in the film.
That's
like, Billy, you put that song in that film that he likes. Have an award.
Song was the like biggest thing that got an award from that.
Right.
Other than that, it was just like worse.
This apparently did really well, I think, in Norway.
Yeah.
Somehow Norway just loved it.
Yeah.
And that was where it found much of its success as a film anyway, which is an odd thing. It makes you wonder what was going on in Norway at the time. Before you see this Ford Fairlane film.
Maybe they just loved the character.
Maybe.
Maybe they're the only people that got it.
Maybe. It's just weird, isn't it? How a certain country's culture can just take to something so specific.
I think another thing is, in America, he was sort of cancelled, like we said.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were like, no, he's too
risky.
Yeah.
Can't push a movie with him.
Don't want to see him at the minute. Yeah. But I think in other places, they'll have gone like, no, we don't know this guy, but he seems pretty cool.
Rennie Harlan described him as like a teddy bear on set to work with.
Yeah.
But Daniel Waters said that he didn't enjoy the experience working with him on this film.
Yeah.
I don't know how much interaction they'd had, but I think the word he used was traumatic.
Yeah.
And said that he's pleased that in an interview, Dice Clay said it was written by Bobby Rivers.
Yeah.
Which, I'll be honest, Bobby Rivers is such a cool rock rock and roll star name.
Yeah.
I feel like that was just intended as part of his comedic persona to do something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a shame for Daniel Water if he didn't enjoy working with him when Rennie Harlin did.
Yeah.
Oh, the only bit that I have noted that I never got to say was Rennie Harlin's Ferrari appears at the beginning of this film.
I
I think it's just showing off, to be honest.
probably.
Because I don't think he'd made a particularly big name for himself by this point, had he? Like, he can go, hey, I'll just throw my Ferrari in this scene.
I'm trying to think what year Cliffhanger was.
Isn't Cliffhanger early 90s?
I don't know, 92. But I think I've got them in order. Well, sort of 3 on here, where it's Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, and Deep Blue Sea.
I'll just do a quick Google on it.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger's 93.
93.
Right.
I thought them were in order. I wasn't sure.
What did Rennie Harlin do before this then?
Okay, let's go in Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
Die Hard 2 will have got him Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger will have got him Long Kiss Goodnight. Then was Deep Blue Sea, I think.
I can tell you what his current film is.
Strangers Chapter 1.
Yeah.
And then he's working on Chapter...
And he did The Bricklayer last year.
Yeah, with Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
I do want to watch that.
Before this, 2 or 3 shorts. Then in 86, he'd done a film, Arctic Heat,
Right.
which looks like it might have another name looking at its poster.
Sounds about right.
Born American, it says on its poster.
Right.
It's a Cold War movie.
Right.
He did The Dream Master, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ah,
4.
yeah. Because that's how he got Robert Englund in this.
Right. Then he'll have worked on this, but Die Hard 2 came out first
Yeah.
by about a week or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
But I loathe Die Hard 2.
I know you do. I'm not keen on it, but it got us Die Hard 3.
Maybe the best Die Hard.
No.
Possibly the best Die Hard.
I kind of put 3 and the first one on par. Die Hard 2, I don't think I'd want to watch it again. I'm starting to watch Die Hard 5, so...
You don't need to.
I do. It's the last one.
Right. For now.
Basically, a wheel Bruce Willis out again.
You never know. You never know.
I hope not.
Is there anything else you want to say about this?
Can't think of anything, which is a shame.
Do you know where Zuzu Petal's name comes from?
No, I don't.
Comes from It's a Wonderful Life.
Ah, yeah.
It's a reference to There's No More Zuzu Petals in Your Pocket.
Yeah, that's right. I remember reading it, but it didn't really,
It's a weird reference.
Yeah.
Bit of a deep cut, that, isn't it? I think.
I do like what Ford Fairlane says about having conversations with her.
Why? What's he say?
It's having a conversation when Zero is like masturbating with a cheese grater.
Yes.
Talking to Zuzu was like masturbating with a cheese grater. Slightly amusing, but mostly painful.
That's a good example, actually, of some of the dialogue from this film.
Can't remember one of the things I wanted to reference with the kid, and I didn't write that down either.
Oh, is it how good it is when he's come out, they've had a quick conversation, and then as he's waiting for his car to, like, put its hood down or up, I can't remember which way. Well, the roof up or down anyway, because it's sort of remote, innit?
Yeah.
Convertible. He, like, pulls out his cigarette, and the kid's, like, doing all the actions at the exact same time. Like, he clearly idolises Fairlane.
Yeah. But no, there was something he said to him, and I can't remember what it was.
Oh, is it when he tells him not to swear?
It could be anything.
He's like, oh, you shouldn't use the F word. I've told you fucking once about using that word. Or something like, it's something like that.
It might have been.
About not swearing and then just swears at him directly anyway.
It might have been. I know there was a lot of good, well, nearly every interaction with Fairlane is just
an absolute banger.
Yeah.
Get your notepad out and study.
I've got something serious to discuss.
Yeah, what is it? Premature ejaculation?
Yeah. There's no way I'm going to note everything down that he says.
He's such a fun character for me.
I think he's one of the best characters in film.
He's the closest I think we've had to Johnny Bravo on screen. But if Johnny Bravo was like R-rated or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
I think you might be onto something there.
Is that the end?
Yeah, that's the end of the adventures.
Oh, so we've come to an end of the adventure. It's time to go home. That's the end of the show. Thank you for joining us this week. And if you haven't already, click like and subscribe. Click like and subscribe. A glowing review would also be appreciated. We are cynic_critique on X and Instagram. Links to those can be found in the show's description. And remember to join us again next week as we're doing something a little different as we try and summarise the Borderlands video game franchise ready for Eli Roth's upcoming movie adaptation in a few days. And hopefully by the time this is out, there should be a Deadpool and Wolverine minisode. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
It's cute that y'all think you're the heroes of this little adventure, but you're not.